Well, here's video number 2. And in this video, I'm going to talk about how to zhuzh up that sundress. Keep watching! Okay, well, as mentioned in the video prior to this, well, depending on what order you're watching this, but in the first sundress video, I did talk about that I was making a plain version of this dress. And in this video, what I'm going to be showing you is all the different things you can do to sort of like zhuzh up a plain dress, as well as I'm going to show you how to draft the collar. I'll pop up a photo actually so you understand what I'm talking about. So there's two in book 21, figure 2 and 3. It shows like a plain sundress with nothing here, and then it shows a collar. So I'm going to show you how to do a very easy, super easy actually, collar and how to sew it on to the top of that dress. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you that, and yeah, and just how things you can do to sort of like, if you want it plain, leave it plain, but if you want to, you know, adorn your dress with some things, I'm going to go through the things that you can use to adorn it, as well as I forgot to mention it in the other video, I'm personally doing a gathered skirt, just because I like gathered skirts. I like how they look on me. I like the swishiness and the flow of it, so that's why I tend to do more gathered skirts. That's just me. But other skirts you can do is you could do a tiered skirt, which I'm actually considering doing for the next version of the sundress because I love this bodice and I'm going to be making more of it. You could do a full circle skirt, a 3/4 skirt, a half circle skirt, a skirts. Actually, you could do skirts to it. You could do a 1/4 circle skirt. You could do A-line, pencil skirt. You could do a sarong. You could add shorts, so do a romper. You could do pants. Actually, you could do culottes. You can use that as the top of those. And sort of other things you can do with this type of dress is you could do color blocking. I've done that with Rita blouses where I've had scraps of fabric, but they're not enough to do an actual full top. So I've done one color fabric up here, one at the bottom. You can do that with this dress as well. The other things you can do is you could change the straps. You could do wide straps. I'm doing sort of 2-inch wide straps so it can cover my bra straps. You could do spaghetti straps. You could do tie-up straps. You could do no straps if you want to put boning. You could do a halter top style, which I might do at some point too. You could do a crisscross with the straps. Like there's so many options for what you could do. You could even draft, like I've seen this before on straps with like the ruffles sticking out, right? You could draft sleeves to fit those straps. So just using that basic sundress bodice, you can do so many things with that bodice to create an entirely different dress or top or you name it, right? And speaking of, I'm going to show you how to take that basic dress bodice and turn it into a summer top. So hopefully you found all this information helpful, and now we're going to go on to the tutorial on showing you how to zhuzh up your sundress with adornments. So another thing I wanted to show you is just a couple of ways to sort of zhuzh up, you know, adorn your dress. Now this isn't the full length here, clearly, but I was just using a scrap piece of paper, but you could do like a faux button band. and put some buttons on it, which is very cute. If you're doing a Halloween dress, I know a sundress doesn't seem very Halloweeny, but depending on where you are in the world, it might be. Also, you could throw a cardigan over, or you can throw a blouse or a turtleneck underneath. But you know, you could put some cute little bat buttons if you want to make a Halloween themed one eventually. These buttons might be too big. You could do smaller buttons. You could actually do huge buttons. You know, it's up to you. I picked ones that had a little bit of pink in them. Other things you could do is, you know, if you want to get even cuter, you know, stick some ribbon or lace under there. You could also, instead of buttons, you could put a patterned ribbon down the middle. You could also take lace and put it under the cuff. That's another alternative. Rickrack is also a fun thing to use. This is a black rickrack. I just thought it would show up a little bit better than some of the other colors I have. So you could do rickrack, you know, along the side of the button band. Have it under, so it's sticking out like that. You could also do the same up here. You could sandwich it in with the you could, oops, getting caught on the pins here. You know, you could sandwich it in with the I don't know if you can see that very well. You could sandwich it in with the top of the band and with facing all that stuff. You could throw some lace or rickrack on your straps. There's a whole bunch of fun little things you could do. You could also put lace along the outside of the strap. I don't know if that's showing up very well. It's almost the same color as the table, but there's a whole bunch of things you could do to sort of zhuzh up the bodice of this, right? You don't, if you're using a plain fabric, I mean, even if you're using a pattern fabric, you can do the same things, right? So those are just a couple of ideas on some things you could do. Could also, another option, I just saw this, I forgot I pulled it out. You know, have ribbon down either side. You know, lots of options. You could actually, if you have an embroidery machine, you could embroider on the band or embroider on, you know, if you've got a panel down here. Really lots and lots of options. And don't just think that you're stuck wearing this style of dress in the summer. I wear mine all year long, and what I do is, as I just previously mentioned, I put a cardigan on, or I put like another layer underneath, like a blouse or a turtleneck or something like that, right? So there's lots of options for this style of bodice. And, you know, you can also use this as a base to create different kinds of bodices. So instead of having straps, you could add sleeves, right? Or have a ruffle sleeve as opposed to like a thick strap. You can do spaghetti strap. You can do a strap with the slider, the bra slider kit. You can do it wider if you want. You can do a halter strap. You can do strapless actually. You just have to put boning in this. So there's lots of options. Okay, so what we're doing right now is we're going to do they call it a collar, but band or collar. And so the instructions for this state for figure 2, for the, where is it here? The collar. Oh, sorry, it's figure 3 has the collar, not figure 2. The bodice has a cuff top. It also calls it a cuff. I'm calling it a collar. It's called a cuff. Cut the material on the cross, also meaning the bias, 4 inches wide. Fold in half and attach to the top of the bodice, tapering to the underarm. So it's going to be, what it's saying is, you're going to have a rectangular piece. You're going to have a rectangular piece. However, what it's saying is you're going to have the widest part down here, and then you're going to move the piece so it tapers up. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have a piece sticking out at the top in your seam allowance. And you're going to cut that away. So what we're going to do right now, though, is we're going to draft the cuff. I'm only doing it on the front. There are some dresses I've seen in here that do it for the back as well. I'm just doing it for the front for this exercise. And let's move that out of the way. And I'm going to zoom back out. Okay, hopefully you can see this okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut, we are cutting 2 separate pieces. This is the front pattern piece, which you would normally cut on the fold. However, this is the bandeau is not going straight across. I mean, you could make a cuff that way if you want. Sorry, bandeau, the cuff. You could make the cuff that way if you want. However, you're gonna end up short, right? Because there's a seam allowance on this side and there's a seam allowance on this side of the cuff piece, right? And you're gonna stick to the whatever seam allowance you have put together. In my case, I'm doing a half inch seam allowance. So you're going to have 4 sides of this pattern piece that you're making that are going to have a seam allowance. The bottom, the top, and each of the sides. So keep that in mind when you're cutting your piece. I have a piece of scrap paper, which is not wide enough. So let me just look at what other tracing paper I have here. And in my case, my pattern piece is, at the top is 12 inches wide exactly. But I'm going to need to do 13 inches that way, so I have half an inch on either side. And then I'm going to have to do 5 inch width so that I have half an inch on either side. Going to see if this other piece of paper is going to be wide enough and long enough if I use it. Yeah, it's definitely long or wide enough. Yeah, it's going to be deep enough. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to just measure off on this piece of paper 13 inches across and 5 inches down. And I'm just using my measuring tape that I use for absolutely everything, for sewing, you name it, because it's handy. I have it here. So it's going to smooth. You don't have to use tissue paper. Use whatever paper you have handy dandy. And I'm just smoothing mine out so that I can get a bit of a more even line. In this case, so I said I'm going to be 5 inches down. And yours will be 5 inches down too, unless you're doing a smaller cuff. Looking at that illustration, that cuff's not going to come out huge because you're going to be folding it in half, remember. So when you fold it in half, you're going to have a 2-inch width at the center line, or between your bosoms, and then it's going to get narrower as it gets to your armhole. So I've done that. I'm just going to draw a line. My head is not getting in the way. It probably is. And I probably should have used something that wasn't white on white. I apologize. I don't have any other color tissue paper at the moment. So I've drawn that line, and then I'm just going to measure over 13 inches. Oops. Get down there. Anyway, straight ruler probably would have been less finicky than this, but that's what I got. Handy at the moment. And for me, sewing, because I don't have a dedicated sewing room, I'm kind of all over the place in my home for sewing. And because of that, I grab whatever's closest. Okay, so I'm just going to cut this piece of paper, the tissue out. I know this is super exciting to watch me do this. Okay, so now I have my cuff. And what I'm going to do is I have the pattern pieces cut out. So it might be easier to kind of show you, because now there'll be a contrast. So as it said in the instructions, you're going to fold this piece of tissue paper in half. Well, in your case, this can be fabric. Then what you're going to do is you're going to, on your sewing machine, and what I'm going to do is I'm just showing this quickly, and then I will actually sew the pieces up and come back. But what I suggest you do is sew one of the ends up, the end that's going to be the pointed part of the cuff. And I just have I have my strap, I have my front, I don't need both straps right now, and well, I do, and I have my front bodice piece. I haven't sewn any of the darts or anything up on this yet. This I just cut out, and I just finished serging this. Actually, you know what, I'm just going to show you on half, because that might, then you can see the whole thing, because otherwise you're not going to see it. So, you know what, I'm just going to, give me a moment, I'm just going to zoom out a bit. Okay, there, you can see that a little bit better. So I'm just going to show you on half. So I folded this back up. So what they're talking about is, that's a rectangle, right? However, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be sewing this, placing it at the middle, the fold, right? This is the middle fold. And then you're going to taper it up, because now this is 2 inches, right? Well, 2¼ inches because of the, or 2½ inches because of the seam allowance. So you're going to taper it up so that, actually I'll flip it over because you'll see it on the back better. So you've got your pattern piece here, right? I hope this is making sense, but you've got your pattern, yeah, again, there's too much contrast, but you've got your pattern piece, it's underneath right now, right? So you're going to keep it lined up in the center front, and then you're going to taper it up so that there's about an inch of this piece now above the top of your garment. But don't worry, what I'm going to do is I am going to go sew this, and then when I come back, I'll show you what it's going to look like. And another thing to keep in mind, have your shoulder straps ready to go, because when you go to sew up the sew the facing to your garment, you're going to be sandwiching the strap, the cuff, and then that's all gonna be sandwiched between the facing when you go to sew it. So what I'm going to do is I am now going to sew everything up, and then I'll cut out my fabric first, of course. Sew everything up, and then when I'm at the machine, what I will do, I'll show you how I'm sandwiching all the pieces together. Okay? So the next clips you're going to see are me. I've already sewn up the cuff, but I'll show you how you're going to sandwich, how you're going to line up the cuff, and also how you're going to sandwich the cuff and the strap with the facing. Hopefully that'll all make sense when you see it. Okay, so now we're on to putting the band pieces. You can see that okay. I know, again, it's contrasting colors, but the band, we're going to be putting that onto the bodice. So the first thing you should do before we do the adding the band to the bodice, because you're going to layer everything, right? You're going to do straps, the band, and then you're going to put the facing. So what I highly recommend is, so that things aren't moving around too much, go ahead and sew down your straps, however which way you're doing your straps. I'm doing mine as one piece on each side. If you're doing a tie strap or one with the bra fittings, so that the sliders and stuff, you know, make sure that's all done and you've basted it down. It's just stuff moves around and you've got multiple layers here, so it's going to be a pain. So what I've already done is I've already sewn up the outer seam. What you have, if you originally you're going to have, you would have cut two pieces out. The instruction says to fold it in half, right? Cut it out, fold it in half, and make sure you've sewn up the one end already, okay? Now, we're putting this on the front, so make sure that the front part of your garment is already laid out. Now, in my case, it's going to be a little wiggly because I do have the straps on. So you're just going to have to manage the straps somehow. And you're going to pick a center point on the front. So I'm just going to do that. Just going to be off camera for briefly. So let me just get these straps the right way around again. It is a bit of a faffing around. So we have a midpoint, and when you go to sew this, you're going to have to like manage the straps as well. So you've got your midpoint, which you can't see with the strap. You've got your midpoint, right? So that's where the corner the open corner. So the open corner, because you want the closed corner to be facing down, just line it up with the middle part. Also line it up with the edge of your garment, because this piece that you cut out should like fit from the middle all the way to that edge. And you're going to pin it down. Going to do the same thing on the other side. So let me just do that. Okay, so you've got the one edge. Okay, so you've got that middle edge pinned down. So what the instruction says is you're going to taper. Make sure we're in focus and view there. You're going to taper this piece so that it's shorter on the outer edge than in the middle edge. And my suggestion is to fold the end piece in half, mark it with a pin, and the pin should meet the top of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pin everything in place, and then I'm going to come back and flip it over and show the other side. Okay, so I've pinned it from the wrong side of the fabric, just because what you're going to do next is you're going to go and you're going to baste along here to hold it in place. So again, it's not moving around when you go to put the facing on. And hopefully you can see that, but see the end? It's sticking out now. So what you're going to do is you're going to baste this in place, and then you're going to trim off the excess from corner to corner. From this corner and from where you started. Just even it out, because it will, you'll see once you put the facing on, you're going to see that it's going to be longer on one end and shorter on the other end. So let's go do that. Okay, so please excuse my jigsaw puzzle interfacing. I'm trying to use up scraps. So what you're going to do next is you're going to sew the facing to the body of the or to the bodice, and then you're going to understitch, which I've done here, and then you're going to give it a good press. I'm going to do that momentarily. And I do apologize. I realized after the fact that I might have given you the wrong order of for the front, for the straps. The back, you're going to based on the back strap, and then you're fine, because then the facing is going to go over top, and then when you have your facing, it's going to come through nice. However, for the front, because you still want that strap to be like that with your facing, and then you know, in your cuff, the order that you're going to actually do the front part is you're going to do the cuff, baste the cuff on first, and then you're going to baste on the strap, and then you're going to put on the facing. So I do apologize if that confused anyone. I'm sure at this point you've already figured that out, but I'm also going to have all the steps in the written instructions too. So yeah, so now the cuff is on. I'm going to give everything a good press, and then I will, actually what I'll do is I'll add the skirt and everything, and then I'm going to show you on my tailor firm, who I named Bunty, what it's going to look like. It'll be easier to see it on her. So just, I'll be back in a few moments. So here is the dress on Bunty. So I did a couple of tweaks on this dress that I'm going to change on the first dress. I raised the dart and I made it a little took it in a little bit more here, because I found that on the other dress, it was just a bit loose here on me, so that can be fixed very easily with the dart. So I'm going to do that. And I realized for some reason on the other dress, one strap is longer than the other, so looser than the other. So I'm just going to fix that as well. But yeah, here is the cuff. I am going to leave this dress as is. I'm not going to add any extra adornments to this one. I'm going to be making a third dress, but it might not be done in time for the series. If it is, it'll be on Instagram, or I'll do a short. And the next dress, what I want to do is I'm going to have the cuffs, but probably in a contrasting color. And I want to do a button band, again with a contrasting fabric, with like maybe some rickrack sticking out of the sides with some buttons. And I'm going to do a tiered skirt instead of just a gathered skirt, because I would really like to do one with a tiered skirt. Okay, so there it is. Button band, or with the button band with the cuff here. Also, next time what I'm going to do for the cuff is I am going to try to get it to meet up here. I guess when I was sewing it on, didn't have it quite close enough, but it still looks fine. Other options for the cuff, if you don't want to do a pointy edge, you can curve it. You could do a scalloped cuff as well. So again, lots of options. It is a basic bodice, but there's so many things that you can do to change it up. And I'm back. So hopefully you found that helpful. Hopefully you use these techniques to adorn your dress. And hopefully you found the collar, I'm probably calling it the wrong thing. Maybe it's not a collar. Band. The band. That's what it's called. It's not a collar, it's a band. So hopefully you found the tutorial on making the band easy and helpful. And if you like this type of video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe, comment below, and tell all your friends about the series and my channel and me. Anyway, until the next video, stay kitschy.